Bert broadcast number 00.
Okay, this is Uncle Bert Lamb saying hello from Beastburg. We're broadcasting from planet Darkstar today to your planet Earth. We want to thank you for sending Earth songs to us in musical notation format and for making them show up as screensavers on our idle computers. This Darkstar Journal show is a sort of return gift from our little group. On Darkstar, it is 32:15. It's the 8th month, August, and the 2nd day, and it's a Wednesday. I met with Mrs Persian, the chair of our Jackster board, this morning. She has insisted that these journal broadcasts for you on your song planet, on your planet Earth as we know you so charmingly call it, contain intimate details about our life here on our own planet, on Darkstar. Mrs. P. rejected my idea of talking to you about the general state of things here in our world. She thinks you have access to our news media and would prefer a private view of one animal's life, mine. This morning I reminded her once more that my life is essentially boring and won't appeal to aliens. In fact, I waxed quite poetic about it, saying, "Nobody wants to hear dull facts about a quiet living and increasingly ruminative and prolix elderly gent of the noble genus Ovis Aries." She replied, "You've agreed to do it, so just get on with it." After walking out of Mrs. P's office, I saw baby Lambkin, our board secretary, on the teleportal in her smaller office next door to Mrs. P. Yesterday I got word that Einstadt Chimp wants to take baby away for a month to help him with a scheme of his. As well as being right there for Mrs. P and acrylic, baby is also a great help to me. I leaned on her door frame, waiting for her to get off the teleportal. When she finally put it down, I said, "What does Einstadt want you to do?" "You know Fur's Top, the Jackster plant computer that speaks in Einstadt's voice?" "Of course," I said. "We use it here." Baby walked over and looked up at me. "Well, 13 years later, Einstadt has done a complete upgrade, and he wants me to be the new voice. Rather, he wants to use my voice to create a digital voice that will then speak for the computer." "You do have a lovely, deep, and melodious speaking voice, baby," I said. "Thank you, Bert," she almost purred. "Also," I went on, "Einstadt suffers from an incomprehensible North Continental accent. But how can we do without you?" "It's only for a month," she said, "and it's summer, and usually that's our quiet time." "Not for me," I said. "I'm starting up our new Darkstar Journal Kinescope for Earthlings, and my summer is full of family stuff. Not that I don't love it all." "We're aware of the stresses on you," said Baby. "I'm trying to get Einstadt to let me spread the recording over the next 3 months and do it in my spare time." "Well, good luck with Einstadt," I said, and went off to start my work for the day. I had my standard morning up in my cupola, writing and drawing, and then I checked in with my daughter Acrylic downstairs to see if she wanted to come out with her mum and me and take a first look at her sister Woolen's new house. When I poked my head in, I could tell from her computer screen that she was using her lunch hour to work on the novel she's been writing on forever. She told me Einstadt, who is our Jackster chief scientist, was coming in to talk to her about baby Lambkin, so I walked home on my own for lunch, which Rosabella served on the porch with some of her butterfly friends. Rosabella and I were to meet Woolen at Professor Alan Tiger's house near Beastburg University, which she is in the process of buying. In fact, of all the odd things, Wooly is buying 2 houses from Professor Tiger, his Clifftop house on the High Wolds and this place in town. Last weekend, old Alan Tiger moved himself into the BU faculty club. Martha Tiger, his daughter, who has spent several months negotiating for him with Woolen, told us that we can all finally come in and take a look at the new place. After lunch, Rosabella and I hopped the bus down Deep Street to that warren of little streets behind Memorial Hall. I had already talked with Rosabella about what Miss Tarr said to me, that Woolen, after setting up to buy the High Wolds house with her own money, has offered to share ownership of that house with this new friend, Martha Tiger, who grew up spending her summers there. We found our way to Wentworth Ave, where the gray wooden Tiger house sits behind a tall, slatted fence. 2 enormous horse-chestnut trees in the back garden tower magnificently over the old place. After waiting for 10 minutes, we got a text from Woolen saying she was held up at work. However, we could let ourselves in with a key to be found under a flower pot by the kitchen door at the back. We toured the house and loved the house, though it seemed somewhat large for little Wooly. It looked almost entirely furnished. Even the bookcases were all mostly full. Everywhere we looked, there were homey, feminine touches, even though we'd heard that Alan Tiger was a widower and his daughter Martha lives and works at Cowbridge University. The only sign of someone moving out was an empty wall space that gave a sad look to the downstairs study. That large and poignant gap, leaving a dirty white wall exposed, could well have been where old Professor Tiger kept a roll-top desk. "They haven't cleared much out," said Rosabella. "I bet Wooly is going to share both houses, this one and the other, with this new friend of hers, Martha Tiger." "How can you be so sure?" I asked. "You watch," she said. "They're going to become life partners and be just like a married couple. They'll try to hide it from everyone because mixed-species same-sex couples are illegal, but I can just feel it." "There have always been such things," I said, "even if it was kept hidden. Mixed-species couples are now legal, and mixed-sex couples have been legal for ages, and maybe this will be the next big thing." "Woolen hates notoriety," said her mother, and I couldn't disagree with her about that. When I got back to the archive, Einstadt Chimp was sitting with Acrylic and Baby Lambkin in Mrs. Persian's office. I walked by with a hot cup of tea in my hand, but nobody invited me in, even though I'm the one who will most feel Baby's loss this summer. She's as much my assistant these days as she is Mrs. P's or Acrylic's. After a while, Baby Lambkin brought Einstadt upstairs to me. Back when he was acting as the original manager at Jackster's, Einstadt, for some reason, had no time for me, but now he was suddenly all charm. He asked me questions about Acrylic and explained why he wanted Baby's help, but then, before he left, Einstadt stared at me hard and said something odd. "Have you ever been interested in robots?" "I've never even thought much about them," I told him, "though I have lived intimately with one for years. My dear granddaughter, Ellie Ram, has a robot that is an altered version of an Arnold, whom she calls Arnett. Day by day, that little robot rolls around our house very charmingly and does useful things. I've grown surprisingly fond of her. A subtle intimacy in our relationship has crept up on me over the years, and it feels mutual." "How very interesting," said Einstadt. Then he closed his eyes and added, "Actually, I'm familiar with Arnett." And without another word, he got up and left us. This is just so typical of old Einstadt's slightly absent social skills. After he was gone, I remembered that 10 years ago, before I knew anything about Einstadt, he did a phenomenal repair job on Ellie's robot Arnett when Ellie was only 5. He even dropped in on our house a couple of times to talk things over with our family. Somehow I'd forgotten all about that, even though it impressed me so deeply at the time. Baby Lambkin, standing beside me, looked up at my face. "What are you thinking?" she asked me, but I just smiled.